I struggled to breathe as the oxygen mask pressed my face. Machines beeped fast around my hospital bed. Two nurses whispered sharply about unpaid bills and delayed treatment. One shook her head and said my name like a warning. I turned to look at my mother. She stood stiff, clutching her bag, eyes fixed on the floor. I tried calling her phone from mine just to test her. It rang inside her bag. She did not answer. Fear mixed with pain in my chest. Why was my own mother avoiding my calls now? The room suddenly felt colder and unsafe. The next morning I asked for my medical files. The nurse searched the cabinet and frowned. My records were gone. I watched my mother's face change when I told her. She laughed softly and said files get misplaced often. Her voice sounded calm, but her fingers trembled. She rushed outside to answer a call, leaving her bag behind. I felt a tight pull in my stomach. Those papers showed my treatment history and payments. Without them, anything could happen. When she returned, she smiled too quickly. I wondered if the files were missing by accident, or if someone had moved them on purpose. The thought refused to leave my mind. After I was discharged, I noticed my mother leaving home early each morning. She carried small brown envelopes and said she was going to the village market. One day, I followed her quietly, keeping my distance. She did not go to the stalls. Instead, she met someone behind a clothes shop and handed over an envelope. They spoke in low voices. I could not hear the words, but I saw her nod several times. My heart pounded. She had never hidden things from me before. When she turned suddenly, I ducked behind a cart. I realized I did not know my mother as well as I thought. That scared me deeply. I told my cousin everything that evening. I expected concern, but they laughed and waved it away. They said my mother was the most honest woman in the village. They blamed my fear on sickness and stress. I tried to agree, but my chest felt heavy. If I was wrong, why did everything feel so wrong? I went to bed uneasy, listening to the sounds of the night. I kept thinking about the envelopes and the missing files. What if something bad was coming? What if no one believed me when it did? I stared at the ceiling and wondered how far the truth could hide before it was forced into the light. The next afternoon, I returned home to find a small paper on my bed. It was folded neatly like a secret. Written in shaky ink were the words, "Not everything you see is real." My hands shook as I read it again. No name. No date. I asked my mother if she had been in my room. She said no and looked surprised. I checked the doors and windows. Nothing was broken. That night, I barely slept. I kept hearing the words repeat in my head. Who left the note? Were they warning me or trying to confuse me? I hugged my pillow tightly, afraid of what I might discover next. That night, fever pulled me into a strange dream. I saw my mother standing beside my bed, holding thick papers. She smiled sadly and placed them in my hands. Before I could read them, smoke rose and burned the pages away. I screamed, but no sound came out. I woke up soaked in sweat, breathing hard. My chest hurt like before. The dream felt too real to ignore. When morning came, my mother brought me tea and acted normal. I watched her closely, searching her face for answers. Was my mind playing tricks on me, or was my body warning me of danger? I felt trapped between fear and trust, unsure which one to believe. 2 days later, the hospital called again. They said my payments were never received. I felt dizzy as I held the phone. I confronted my mother immediately. She denied everything and said the hospital made mistakes often. Her voice stayed smooth, but her eyes avoided mine. I reminded her of the receipts we once kept together. She said she would find them later. That answer was not enough. My health depended on those payments. If treatment stopped, I could get worse. I realized this was no longer just about money. Something serious was being hidden from me. I lay awake that night, listening to her footsteps, wondering how far the lie went and why she was willing to risk my life. Word spread quickly in the village. Neighbors praised my mother's kindness and generosity. They talked about how she helped others quietly and never complained. I listened from my window, feeling alone. How could I accuse someone everyone trusted? Each smile she gave the neighbors felt heavier to me. I started doubting myself again. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe sickness was making me imagine things. But then I remembered the note, the envelopes, and the missing files. My fear returned stronger. I realized that exposing the truth would mean standing against the image everyone loved. That thought scared me more than my illness. I wondered if the village would ever believe my side of the story. One evening, I noticed my mother standing near her bedroom closet. She blocked the door with her body when she saw me watching. I had never seen her act that way before. The closet was always open, filled with old clothes and boxes. Now it was locked. When I asked about it, she snapped that it was nothing important. Her sharp tone shocked me. Later, I saw her checking the lock again and again, like someone guarding a treasure. My heart raced. That closet suddenly felt like the center of every secret. I could not stop thinking about what might be hidden behind that door. Whatever it was, she did not want me anywhere near it. That night, I could not sleep. I slid quietly from my bed and checked under my mother's mattress. My hands brushed against paper. I pulled out a folded envelope. Inside were numbers, dates, and hospital names written in a careful hand. My name appeared more than once. My chest tightened. These were not random notes. They matched the hospital bills I remembered. I placed everything back exactly as I found it. My legs felt weak as I returned to my room. My mother was not confused. She was organized. And that scared me more than any mistake. I realized the truth was close now, and once I found it, nothing would ever be the same again. The next day, I spoke to an old village elder. I shared my worries carefully. The elder listened quietly and told me to trust my instincts. They said fear without reason fades, but fear with patterns grows. Later, my friends warned me to stop overthinking. They said suspicion could destroy families. I felt torn in two directions. One voice told me to stay quiet. The other pushed me to keep digging. My health was still fragile, and stress made it worse. But ignoring the signs felt dangerous. I realized I had to choose between comfort and truth. That night, I promised myself I would not stop until I understood what my mother was hiding, no matter how painful it became. A week later, my mother came home smiling. She said the hospital bills were settled. Relief washed over me at first. I even laughed. She hugged me tightly, holding on longer than usual. Yet something felt wrong. She did not show receipts. She changed the topic quickly. That night, I felt uneasy instead of thankful. Peace arrived too suddenly, like a curtain dropped over a stage. I lay awake, listening to the sounds of the house. The silence felt heavy. I wondered if this was real peace or just another layer of lies. My body relaxed, but my mind stayed alert. I sensed the storm had not passed. It was only hiding, waiting for the right moment to return. I visited the hospital quietly the next morning. The clerk showed me the account records. Some bills were marked paid. Others were missing entirely. My name appeared beside gaps and blank lines. My hands shook as I thanked her and left. Partial payment meant someone wanted the problem hidden, not solved. I sat outside and tried to breathe slowly. This was proof. My mother had not told me the full truth. The relief she offered was false. As I walked home, every step felt heavier. I realized this was planned carefully, not rushed. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. And the worst part was knowing the person behind it was someone I loved and trusted with my life. That night, my condition worsened. My chest burned and my head spun. I wondered if my treatment had been changed. At the hospital, the nurse looked confused about my medication schedule. Fear filled me. Mistakes like that could kill me. I remembered the missing files and felt cold all over. Someone had interfered. I looked at my mother, who stood calmly by my bed, rubbing my arm. Her touch felt strange now. I pulled away slightly. For the first time, I wondered if she believed she was protecting me or controlling me. The thought hurt deeply. I closed my eyes, pretending to sleep, while my mind raced. If she was involved, how far was she willing to go? My life depended on the answer. While resting at home, I noticed something new. Every envelope I had seen shared a small mark in the corner. The same symbol appeared on hospital forms that went missing. It was not random. It was intentional. The symbol matched one I had seen on an old family box years ago. My heart pounded as memory surfaced. This was bigger than bills. It was tied to family history. I realized my mother was not acting alone. She was following a pattern passed down quietly. The truth began to form slowly, like a picture coming into focus. Whatever this was, it had roots deeper than I imagined. And if I did not act soon, I might never get another chance. One evening, I overheard my mother speaking with a village elder outside. She whispered about protection and family legacy. She said sacrifices were necessary to keep certain things away. My hands trembled as I listened from behind the wall. This was not about money anymore. It was about belief. Fear crept through me. What kind of protection required hiding hospital bills? What legacy risked my health? I stepped back quietly before they noticed me. My heart raced. I realized she truly believed she was doing the right thing. That made everything more dangerous. A person who believes they are right will not stop easily. I returned to my room, shaking, knowing the truth was close and terrifying. The next morning, a small key fell from my mother's coat as she passed me. She did not notice. I picked it up slowly, my fingers cold. The key felt heavy, like it carried weight beyond metal. I knew immediately what it belonged to. The locked closet. I hid the key in my pocket, my heart pounding so loud I feared she could hear it. All day, I felt nervous and alert. Every sound made me jump. I knew taking that key crossed a line. But I also knew I could not turn back now. That closet held answers. And once I opened it, my life would change forever. I prayed silently for strength, knowing courage was my only shield now. At my next hospital visit, a nurse pulled me aside quietly. She said she noticed strange payment records and missing forms tied to my name. She told me to be careful and trust what I saw, not what I was told. Her eyes showed concern, not judgment. I thanked her softly. Having someone else notice made me feel less alone. Still, fear lingered. Speaking out could bring trouble, but staying silent could cost my life. I returned home feeling both supported and scared. That night, I held the key tightly and thought about the nurse's words. The truth was no longer just my suspicion. Others had seen cracks too. I realized the time for waiting was over. The closet had to be opened. That evening, I asked my mother directly why she hid the bills. I watched her face closely. She smiled calmly and said I worried too much. She told me everything was under control and walked away. Her calmness frightened me more than anger would have. There was no guilt in her eyes, only certainty. That smile stayed with me long after she left the room. I realized she believed I would never challenge her. That realization gave me strength. I was no longer just afraid. I was determined. If she would not tell me the truth, I would find it myself. I waited until the house was quiet, my heart steady, the key warm in my hand, ready to face whatever waited behind the locked door. That night, strange things happened. A lamp flickered on and off. A cup fell from the table with no one near it. My door creaked open slowly. Fear wrapped around me tightly. I felt watched. My mind raced back to the words about protection and legacy. Was this fear meant to stop me? I sat still, breathing slowly, refusing to run. I reminded myself that fear grows when fed. Whatever was happening, it was meant to scare me into silence. That thought made me stronger. I stood up, steady despite shaking legs. If the truth frightened me, it was because it mattered. I decided nothing would stop me now. Tomorrow, I would open the closet, no matter what waited inside. 21. The next afternoon, when my mother left the house, I went straight to her room. The locked closet stood quietly, like it had been waiting. My hands shook as I slid the key into the lock. It fit perfectly. I paused, listening. The house was silent. I turned the key slowly. The lock clicked softly, but the sound felt loud in my ears. I pulled the door open just a little. A stack of envelopes and old boxes filled the space. My heart raced. I knew this was only the beginning. I closed the door quickly, stepping back. Whatever was inside was more than I expected. I needed time, courage, and proof. This discovery would change everything I knew about my family forever. Later that night, I opened the closet again. I searched carefully this time. I saw hospital bills, letters tied with string, and papers marked with strange symbols. The same symbol I had noticed before appeared everywhere. My name was written on many documents. Some letters spoke of sacrifices and protection, written by family members long gone. My stomach turned. This was not a mistake. This was a plan passed down quietly. I realized my mother believed she was saving our family, even if it meant hurting me. Tears filled my eyes. I closed the closet and sat on the floor, shaking. I finally understood the danger. This was not just about the past. It was happening now, and I was the center of it all. I returned to the closet at dawn and gathered everything. I read every letter slowly. The truth unfolded painfully. My mother believed our family carried a dark legacy that required control and secrecy. She hid my bills to force dependence, thinking it would protect me. She altered records to keep me close and obedient. My chest hurt as I realized she chose belief over my health. I packed the evidence carefully. This was betrayal, even if wrapped in love. I cried quietly, mourning the mother I thought I knew. But I also felt clarity. Lies thrive in darkness. The truth, once seen, demands light. I knew what I had to do next. I would confront her, not alone, but before everyone. The secret had ruled long enough. I confronted my mother in the village square. People gathered quickly. I laid out the bills, letters, and records. Gasps filled the air. My mother tried to explain, saying she only wanted to protect our family. She spoke of legacy and fear. I listened, then spoke calmly. I told them how my treatment was delayed and my life risked. Silence followed. The elder stepped forward and confirmed the symbol's meaning. The truth could no longer hide. My mother's shoulders fell as tears came. The village understood then. Good intentions cannot excuse harm. I felt pain, but also relief. The burden was no longer mine alone. Justice was not loud. It was clear, and it finally stood beside me, steady and undeniable. After that day, everything changed. The village helped correct the records and ensured my treatment continued properly. My mother stepped back, forced to face what her choices caused. Healing began slowly, for both of us. I learned that trust without discernment can become danger. I also learned courage does not mean lack of fear. It means acting despite it. As my strength returned, so did my voice. I often think about how close I came to losing everything. If only we trusted our instincts sooner, much pain could have been avoided. But truth, once found, can still heal. This story is my reminder that love must never silence wisdom. When something feels wrong, listen. Your life may depend on it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and turn on your notification button. And if you enjoy this story, leave a comment below. Remember, I love reading what you think. See you next Sunday. Bye.